And good evening, everyone. This is Mark Willoughby, and you are tuned into another edition of the Southeastern Sports Network podcast. And we've got a special pod here tonight. Tyler Thomas joins us. And if you listen to men's basketball, women's basketball, volleyball, softball, you name it, you're hearing the voice of one Tyler Thomas. Tyler, thank you for joining us. Get a chance to talk some Lady Lions tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited, especially after a big win. Obviously, I've been wanting to come on the show for a while now, and I'm excited to be here. I'm blessed to do what I do, and I love every minute of it, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, you're always welcome anytime. We're always looking for some knowledgeable guests, and you're part of the network now. So welcome aboard, and you let the cat out of the bag. Big come from behind win tonight for Ayla Gazzardo's Southeastern Lady Lions tonight. On the road at Memphis, an American Conference team, and not the greatest of starts. They get in the hole early, fall behind 19-4, but in true Ayla Gazzardo in Southeastern fashion, they chip away, just that mental toughness, find a way to win in the end, win by 5 going away. So your thoughts on tonight's ball game?
Well, that's just the type of team they are, Mark. You look at Coach Ayla Gazzardo's, her entire tenure as a whole, she's been that type of coach that every team's gritty. They get back on defense turns into offense, things like that. And so when you've got a team like that, some nights you're not shooting well. I mean, they were 2 of 10 from the three-point line tonight, but you get back in defense, you're creating turnovers, things like that. They caused 17 turnovers tonight. I think against Southern Miss, they caused 19. That's a huge number of turnovers. You're getting the ball back going the other way, and that's what solves a lot of those problems you talked about. You start off bad, but you get those turnovers, you're right back into it because the more you have the ball, the more chance you have to score.
You've seen this program play up close and personal for the last several years, and it's been a ascending program on the rise, and of course culminated with the conference championship 2 years ago, chance to make the tournament after a near miss the year before. Last season took a little bit of a step back, and part of that reason was no Alexis Horn. She's back now. Alexis Horn is back playing and leading this basketball team, and she was big tonight in the comeback win.
Yeah, you talk about Alexis Horn. She is somebody that has been a contributor ever since she got on campus for Coach Gazzardo. I mean, she was starting when she was a freshman. I remember in 2019, 2020, being at those games. That was when I first started calling games. So Alexis Horn, Haley Giratano, that group together was really where I started broadcasting. And so seeing her evolution, obviously she has those 2 years where she's out with those big injuries, but she's the type of player, she can shoot, she can score, and she's a defensive hog. I mean, she is not going to let you play. And she honestly, getting to see her with Jen Pierre, who Jen Pierre's finally fleshed her game out, seeing her with Jalencia, that pair is amazing. And yeah, I mean, you get 33 minutes from someone who's tore their ACL twice. I mean, you got to love that.
And obviously the leadership that goes with it and just the stick-to-itiveness to come back. But she has that scorer's mentality. So when you fall behind 19-4, when you're not making shots early, I know last year that was probably one area that they didn't have that go-to scorer to get them out of a slump. And this year they do in Alexis Horn, but she's not the only one. As we talk about the rest of this team, I mean, Cheyenne Daniels in the middle is back, a big body in the middle to eat up space and rebound, and Ariana Patton. You got and then some newcomers. Talk about some newcomers on this basketball team.
Well, I mean, you talk about the two big ones. I mean, you've got 2 former Southland Conference Freshman of the Years. You've got Kaylee Chamberlain, that outside shooter. She's going to come off the bench for a while. She hasn't really played that many minutes so far, but she's kind of that outside shooter. And the way those normally work is that they take a while to figure out where you need to be on the court, where this person's going to be, this and that. By conference time, Kaylee Chamberlain's going to be automatic from 3. I can already see the way she's meshing with the team. She's been there for a year. She was with the Lady Lions last year. She didn't play, but she was with the team last year. And so just looking at that, and then Lexi Alexander, man, she is incredible from Nichols, and she can do just about anything. She can create her own shot. She can drive. She can rebound, and she can defend. She's exactly the type of player Coach Gazzardo needed on a team like last year's, where that was kind of, in the gray area. Obviously, you had a phenomenal player like Haley Giratano, who's now the assistant coach, but you bring in Lexi Alexander, who, I mean, she is in every way, shape, and form just one of the most sensational basketball players you could ever see on a court.
But and it doesn't stop there. You have also Avery Berry, very good player off the bench.
Yeah.
Taylor Bell's back, and again, she is just a physical presence and who can score the basketball. And it's just a more well-rounded team right now because you got shooting, you've got quickness, you've got size, you've got rebounding. And is this the best Lady Lions team under Ayla Gazzardo, in your opinion? What do you think?
Look, there's a lot of basketball left, obviously, but this team, well-rounded and on paper, looks to be the best. You look at that team from 2022 that won conference. You had Sierra Cunningham, Chrissy Brown. You had Alexius Horn before she fell. Obviously, you got Haley Giarratano, Taylor Bell. You've got a freshman, Jalencia Pierre. That team was firing on all cylinders. Incredible. This team on paper looks so good and they're off to a hot start. The issue for them is that you add two entirely new teams to the conference. Teams like Lamar and Corpus Christi are still loaded. I mean, Lamar still has one of the best players in the league. And so, like, you look at as a whole, they're really solid and really well-rounded. But this conference is also really, really vastly improved over the past few years. It's going to be really interesting to look at.
And you bring SFA into the league. And of course, that's the program that dominated before they left. And here they come back. I know they're 4-0, but you talked about the good start, wins over Millsaps to open the year. You had the 10-point loss at Nebraska, a game they led pretty much throughout fall. At the end, a game was tight until late and until some free throws, and had to foul late and lost by 10. You beat Southern Miss at home in a gut check win, and another gut check win tonight. And you go on the road again. Coming up here this weekend, you go to a historically great program in Louisiana Tech, and maybe a chance to get another, maybe higher profile win.
You talk about that program at Louisiana Tech. I mean, when you talk about women's basketball in the area, obviously you've got the recency of Kim Mulkey's LSU and the national championships, but that program in Ruston is really the program to talk about, and they've been doing it for years. And just going into that place, I'm assuming as a Lady Lion would be just so awesome to get a chance to play there and play against them. And just looking at non-conference for the Lady Lions, I mean, they always schedule tough. You talk about that game against Nebraska. It was a 10-point loss, but it was down to the wire in the third quarter. I mean, it was close all the way through. You had Alexius Horn get 24 points. Those kind of games, I mean, you're not supposed to win them. That's what everyone says. But you always feel like the Lady Lions are in those games. It doesn't matter who's across. Talk about LSU last year, 8,000 people in the University Center, and that game's not a blowout. I mean, Avery Berry has an incredible game as a freshman. Just this team doesn't really look at the success of other teams. They're going to play their game, and their game is good.
And they take on the personality of their head coach and their coaching staff. And you know, if you follow them on Twitter or you follow them on social media or you see them around, they're infectious. And they bring a lot of energy, not only to their program, but the entire department as well. And it's no secret that why they're winning basketball games and really representing Southeastern extremely well. So, great start. Still a lot of basketball left to play, but early returns are good. You know, when you can beat two, higher profile conference teams in Southern Miss and Memphis, and then go on the road and play a top 25 team to within 10 on their court, with more to come. So great job by Ayla Gazzardo's crew starting out. And Tyler, you wear many hats. You're the voice of the Lady Lions. You're also the voice of the Lions on ESPN Plus. So let's turn our attention quickly before we get into volleyball, because I really want to talk about the conference tournament coming up and Jeremy White's crew and the job he's done. I want to spend a lot of time there. Let's quickly touch on David Kiefer. Big win last night on the road at UL Monroe. A game they were actually favored to win against the Sun Belt team. Went in there and kind of took care of business. Had a big lead early, lost it late, came back and ended up closing that one out. Talk about David's crew real quick.
Yeah, talk about the grit on that team. Brody getting that big steal late in the game. Just that team as a whole, you look at it this year and it's just got a better feel. It feels like one of, if not the best teams we've had in the Coach Kiefer era. And it comes down to just building a team that he wanted to have. He brought his guys in, and we talked about it on the first broadcast, how many new guys were there. And that team has really started to mesh. I mean, you've got Sam Hines. Jakevian Buckley, someone that I really have been impressed with. Someone who was a role player. Lamar is finally getting a chance to have the ball in his hands a lot more here. And he's proving that he's a top-level scorer in the conference. And then obviously you've got the returners like Brody Robery and just some of those guys. Cam Burton, great three-point shooter, had a good game a couple days ago. And so it's just looking at this team, it feels like it's a new leaf for Coach Kiefer, especially in an environment when you talk about college basketball and the transfer portal and this and that, where sometimes that's not a given. You know, recruiting, it isn't all about what you can tell somebody. It's sometimes about what you can give them. And it seems like, you know, Southeastern's got a really good team this year, and they're fun to watch.
Yeah, they are. And I would tell you, David Kiefer teams have been fun to watch since he's been here, but I think he's finally has the length and athleticism and the depth he can on his club that he can do what he wants to do defensively and offensively. And you know, last year they had to play a lot of zone defense because of injuries and lack of numbers, and really didn't have the size to get out and match up man to man like he likes to. But this seems longer. You got Jeremy Elizy, true freshman, who just really eats up a lot of space, long legs, long arms. Sam Hines, an Energizer bunny at 6'6", about 230. It kind of gives you a little bit different body type than they've had here in the past. And of course, you got Brody Robery in the middle. And you talked about Jay Buckley, and I want to mention him real quick. He's kind of been that silent assassin on this team, the unsung hero, and he's produced points for this team. And I don't think anybody saw that coming. He's running the point. And I know last night he got to the cup about 4 or 5 times on layups where they were able to spread the floor, get some backdoor cuts and some blow-bys for him. So he's really playing well. Turned it over a little bit too much last night, but what a good piece he is. And we saw him at Lamar, for Lamar last year here in the UC, had a big game. And so he's been a big piece of the early start. And they're 2-2 and got a big one against Wyoming coming up on Friday. And again, typical tough non-conference start. But you talked about the women's side, the Southland Conference being tough. You know, I'm sitting there looking at the pre-conference schedule and looking at it going, you know, this might be one of the rare years where conference play may be a little tougher. I mean, you look at what UTRGV did last night, almost went into Wisconsin and won. McNeese beat North Texas, gave Alabama a scare. They're going to be really good. SFA's back in the league. Corpus Christi's a good club. Northwestern State's playing well. Nichols is playing well. Got a big win on the road at Northern Kentucky. Southeastern, obviously, off to a pretty good start. And so you start looking at it, Lamar is going to be solid. They got a lot of pieces back. And you're getting 7, 8, almost 9 deep into this league before you really find a team that's going to kind of lag behind the others.
Yeah, you're seeing it all around the Southland in a lot of sports. I mean, just we'll talk about volleyball later, but, you know, the deep teams in qualifying for the tournament, trying to fight for the tournament. But talk about these basketball teams, man. I mean, looking at McNeese, we thought that they were going to be the one everyone was talking about coming into this year because, I mean, they have one of the most incredible rosters on paper the Southland's ever seen. But you've got teams like you talked about, UTRGV, they played really well last night, and you've got big-time – you know, contributors on all these teams, and you're talking about 8, 9 deep. You look at Southeastern, they have their best team in years, but yeah, they're going to still have to bring it because even if their team is the best it's been in so many years, so are 4 or 5 of the other teams in the conference. And so, I mean, it is going to be a bloodbath. You know, Coach Kiefer talked about it, how he's excited. And obviously that's coach speak. You're excited about wanting to play good basketball teams. But at the same time, you know, you see those teams and you're like, man, what can we do to improve? The Lions are in a good spot, but there's a lot of good basketball in the Southern Conference being played right now.
Yeah, and it's exciting. You know, we talked about how would NIL and transfer portal and that sort of thing affect the Southland Conference. I think the general consensus or most people thought it would affect the conference negatively because you wouldn't be able to compete financially or no way you can get the good transfers. But I think we're finding here early returns are that the league is better across the board in most all sports. It seems like football's better.
Oh, absolutely.
Than last year for sure. It looks like baseball is going to be improved as well. We're seeing both men's and women's hoops, volleyball. I mean, I think across the board we're seeing the athletics and at Southeastern and around the conference is better.
Yeah, you look at all the teams in the conference; they've improved in some way, most of them. But looking at all those sports, you bring in two athletically driven universities, UCRGV, SFA. We've known SFA for a while, but you bring in that UCRGV group that, almost across the board, their sports are doing well. And you've got Lamar, who has been on the up and up in every sport. Shout out to the softball making the tournament last year. Baseball with Will Davis, the first seed. Those guys, they're bringing it every year. Nichols is on the rise. Southeastern's been on the rise. Called it Titletown a couple years ago. Everybody's improving, and it just shows you that the gap, the talent parity up at the top versus where down in mid-major is really it's decreasing at a very fast rate.
No question. I do think the top of FBS and the top of Division I and all that's going to separate itself a little bit. I think the very top, and I think the lines are going to blur the closer you get to the middle. I think that's what we're starting to see, and that's a good thing for everybody because it makes it competitive, and I know it generates a lot of fan interest, and I think hopefully it'll bring rivalries back into play because things are more competitive, and you feel like you have a chance to compete. But it's good stuff, Tyler, on Lady Lions Hoops, and that'll allow us to turn our attention to volleyball. And I know that's something that probably the one sport, volleyball to me, Tyler, I don't know about you. I know you get a chance to call it and you're there every game, but it's one of the best spectator sports there is. It is Absolutely. A blast to watch in person. And it doesn't get enough credit, I think, in the landscape of college sports. And what's your opinion on that?
I love volleyball, man. I've been the play-by-play announcer for, I believe, 4 seasons now. So I've really gotten to see all of the climb for Coach White, and just watching volleyball and seeing the athletes out there, watching a Cicely Hidalgo attack, watching, India Bennett up the middle, push one back, or Kyra McKelvey, who's been incredible lately, just watching those players do what they do. And it's such a uniform sport. It's so many rules, and it's just beautiful to watch. And it's a lot of fun to call. And I'm honored to be able to call the conference tournament this week and coming up. Excited about that, but man, it's just a fun sport.
Oh, you dug into my next comment and question, and was going to mention that you are, I think it's a great honor that you're going to get a chance to be the voice of or the face of the voice on ESPN Plus for the conference tournament coming up in Hammond. And I know it's a big feather in your cap, and it's going to be a joy to listen to you and watch the tournament. But let's talk about Jeremy White's team. I mean, this is a team that, again, talk about ascending. They've been ascending since he's been in the head of the program, and culminated in a couple of NCAA tournaments back-to-back years and going for 3 straight. But thought we may take a little bit of a step back. You lost a couple pieces in the portal, had some graduation losses as well. But get off to a tough start, 0-4 to start the season, and you're kind of going, is this kind of going to be the step back season for this program? And lo and behold, they run off a nation's long winning streak of 24 straight games. You run through the conference undefeated. I don't think anybody saw that coming, especially with SFA coming back into the league. They were the preseason favorites. You sweep them 3 straight, 2 reverse sweeps, which is not very common in volleyball. But this team is resilient. They're tough, hard-nosed, and they play like the lead dog.
Absolutely. And you look at that doTERRA Classic at the start of the year. Those were 3 NCAA tournament teams from the year before. So all 3 of those teams were in the same situation as Southeastern was in the year ago, where they went to the NCAA tournament. And obviously that was a new team. It's so different looking from last year. And I'm not going to talk about the losses, but there were a few of them that were really solid players that either went on and graduated or went on somewhere else. But that run that we've had started with a conference opponent. You started with a reverse sweep. You win 3 straight sets against Stephen F. Austin. This team, they're good, and they've been good. And if you watched a lot of Lady Lion volleyball last year, you saw glimpses of the players that are starring out here. Obviously, we knew who Cicely Hidalgo was from her freshman year. She was all Southland Conference. Then she had those couple years where she was in and out of the, whether she was injured or in pain or this or that, but comes back this year. She's most likely the conference player of the year. I don't think that I'm making my decree here. That's what my prediction is. But she had an incredible year. She's probably the most winning player in Southeastern history. You look at her 4-time state champ, 2-time national champion in high school. She's won 2 conference championships here at Southeastern. She's a winner. This whole team's a winner. I mean, you've got players all around for this team. Lexi Gonzalez, Kyra McKelvey, Alexis Lagarbo, one of the huge surprises of the year, how good she is. You saw glimpses of that last year. And it's this team that you saw how good they were all the way through the lineup last year. They're just as good, if not better, this year. And that just speaks to Coach White as a coach.
Yeah, no doubt. He's won everywhere he's been, and he's doing it here in dominant fashion. And we talked about Ayla and how her personality rubs off on her team. She's infectious. Coach White's, having a chance to interview him and talk to him, and you talk about a guy that exudes confidence. It's not arrogance, but he walks around like, we're about to dispatch you today. I mean, that's just kind of how he is, and I think his players take on that persona. And the 24 win streak you talked about, dominance, 13 of them were sweeps. 3-0 sweeps. I think 7 were 3-1, and I think there were 3 or 4 games that went the full 5 sets. But it's just been a great team to watch, fun team to watch, and that leads us into the tournament that starts this weekend. And Hammond America has become a great place to host tournaments. I think we've seen that in baseball. Obviously, volleyball's hosted it several times, softball. So how do you see the tournament this week? I know there's Southeastern's not the only good team. SFA's got a good club. Got some others coming in here. How do you handicap the tournament coming in? Well,
looking at that tournament, I mean, it is incredible. You've got 4 really solid games to start. You've got Southeastern versus East Texas A&M, a team that they just recently saw. East Texas A&M actually took a set off of Southeastern. Now, obviously, some context into that set. Kira Beverly, others were off and on, putting some reserves in, things like that. But East Texas A&M is a team. They're excited about their name change. I talked to the coach. I talked to their coach today, and he was excited about their game. And just looking at the SFA, they've got a big-time game. That team is good, but they're hurt right now. And so the team coming in, preseason favorites, lost 2 of their best players for the year. Ortiz had a knee injury in the game against us. And, they're going to be good. That 4-5 game, UIW versus UTRGV, that's the one I'm circling for this tournament. I think it's going to be the start of the really, really, really good. You got Coach Orden coming back to the university sitter again. She brought us to 5 sets last time she was here, but spent so many years with Coach White. She was instrumental in this culture shift that we have at Southeastern. And she's playing against UTRGV. Coach Lowry and that team has beaten UIW 3-0 twice this year. But obviously it's difficult to beat a team 3 times. Coach Ording's team is incredible. They're improving every year. This tournament's going to be fun. I'm excited about it. And it's really an honor to be able to host all of these tournaments. I mean, you see softball last year, win in the conference on a walk-off home run. What an incredible environment that was. You have baseball, and it's won in the end right there. Very close game. And obviously you had the heartbreaker against Nichols with the walk-off against us on that night. But the tournaments here, the environment is awesome. And it's a blessing to be able to be a part of it. And it's even more, and you talked about it, how feather in my cap. It's something that I do not take lightly, being able to call this tournament this week. Is something that I am so blessed to be a part of. And I'm so excited to be a part of it. But I'm excited for the tournament in general, even if I was just watching.
And we're excited for you, because I think anybody that watches a broadcast you're doing gets excited watching it, because you're so positive and bring a lot of energy to the broadcast. And so I want to give you that shout out, and you've earned it. So
I appreciate that. Great
gig. And I'm a little bit jealous. I've never done volleyball before, but I know it's going to be fun, especially with the atmosphere. And, Southeastern, hopefully a chance to make a three-peat and get back to the tournament. But so we're looking forward to volleyball coming up this weekend. It's going to be great. Come on out and watch the Lady Lions. Again, it's a fast-paced sport. If you haven't been out before, If you haven't watched collegiate volleyball in person, there's no dull moments. I mean, it's action nonstop, and unless they switch sides, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's fast paced. There's a lot of power involved. They're very high level athletes, and I think they deserve to have a packed house.
Absolutely. And I tell people all the time, one of my favorite things about me like it is that every single play, it doesn't matter if it's just a regular serve or it's just a quick, a service error, whatever, that play is a point. So it matters in the game. There's not a single time on that court where something you do isn't going to matter for the game. And I think that's part of the beauty of volleyball to me, is that it is every single play, every single interception, every single dig is so important.
It's a game of runs too, as well.
Absolutely,
you're never, you think you're up 10-3 or whatever, you think you got it, and all of a sudden, bam, here they go. We're tied at 10-10, and it goes back and forth. So volleyball is, again, if you love competitive athletics, you like fast pace, you like intrigue, it's a great sport to watch. And it's going to be a great time this weekend as Southeastern hosts the women's volleyball tournament in Hammond, America. And while I got you real quick, and we're discussing Lady Lions athletics, softball is going to be coming up around the corner. And what are you looking for out of Rick Freeman's crew? I don't want to put you on the spot. We didn't expect to talk about it, but let's throw it out there. What do you think?
Well, looking at Coach Freeman's crew, Team 40, shout out to them. What an incredible team, years spent. You had so many seniors. Those COVID seniors got that extra year. And you talk about Cam Goodman, Audrey Greeley, some of these cornerstones of that program. Lexi Johnson, talk about walk-off home run to win the tournament. That team is incredible. But talking about that team, they're not here anymore. A lot of them graduated. And so Coach Kiefer is going to have to rely on some of those players that he had with him, Maria Detillier, Maddie Watson, some of those really solid players that are going to have to be there. But he brings in some new blood and some big transfers and brings in some pitching as well. I know that this team is going to be solid. I have no question about that. I have no doubt about that. Coach Freeman, every time I've talked to him, he's focused, laser focused, because he sees the big picture with this team, and he's seen it for years. And it's a team, they've won so many games. After 3 straight years of 40 wins. And I just can't see this team taking a nosedive. Obviously, it's a lot of talent lost, but you talk about it. You bring in Shanita Tucker from Lamar, fast as lightning, a player very akin to a Cam Goodman. You bring in just some big names that you're bringing in, and that's kind of the nature of college athletics as we talked about it. You reload, and I believe Coach Kiefer did a really solid job of reloading this year. I'm excited about that team because they're fun to watch. You go to North Oak Park, it is an experience. It's an interesting experience too. You've got all the moms and dads there, and they're feeding you after the game. It is a family environment there. And Coach Freeman has done a really good job of making me feel like I'm part of the family. And so very thankful to him and just that whole group there. Thankful. That's where I actually started broadcasting. Softball was my first sport. And so I have a huge soft spot in my heart for that team and the people on that team and the ones who run it. And I'm excited about softball. I think that this will be another good year for them, and it'll be an interesting one to see where they can go from obviously winning the tournament, going to a regional, and at that regional showing out. You have 2 big games there where you beat some really good opponents, and you almost take it to Alabama at the end.
Yeah, got after them, and of course, Alabama's Alabama, and ended up winning that regional, but really represented well. In that regional. But, again, if you haven't been out to softball at North Oak Park, that's kind of a hidden gem. It's kind of tucked away behind the UC. And, most folks in Hammond don't go back there. But they've done a great job improving that facility. They've added turf, the new stands, and the video board. All of that has really come into play. And, of course, a few years back, they took over the old gymnasium at the old Hammond High School on the North Campus. Have their own indoor facility, which is probably rare in college softball around the country, especially in the Southland Conference. So facility-wise, they are top notch at their level. At the levels, the mid-major level for sure, and are able to compete against a lot of great programs around the country, and Rick Freeman has done a great job in his tenure here. So I want to get your thoughts on them real quick. But Tyler, appreciate you joining us, the guru of all things Lady Lions athletics, and wanted to get you on, and we'll have you on some more. And real quick, you have a thought on the River Bell before we go.
I'm interested in that game because you look at Nichols, their defense, they've caused a lot of turnovers. I think when I was looking at the stats at the media luncheon for Coach Selfo on Monday, they had caused about 2 turnovers per game. And you're talking about an offense in Southeastern that got it together against Northwestern State, but we knew what Northwestern State was going in. It's a team that's had some struggles offensively, turning the ball over, this and that, especially, talk about that the UIW game. Yeah, so just looking at that team, this is going to be a good game. It's a hotbed rivalry every year. I believe the last 6 of them have gone to the visiting team, so no home team has gotten the ability to take that home. Coach Selfo said, "I hope that this keeps that year. I don't want it to end this year." And
the road team is going to come out on top. And another statistical anomaly is every year since 2008 or 6, really. Well, 2008 was the first year. Since 2008, the winner of this game, which has been mostly Southeastern on the road, in Thibodaux, has scored no less than 27 points, and I think only under 35 once. So it's been a high scoring. When games are in Thibodaux, they tend to be high scoring. When they're in Hammond, they tend to be lower scoring. I don't know why. It's just a quirk in how things have worked out. I don't see that happening in this game. I think this is probably tailor-made to be a low-scoring defensive slugfest because Nichols is good on defense, and they match up well on that side of the ball with Southeastern. And, and the Lions are playing for a playoff opportunity. They have to win and get some help. But, I think it's doable. They're going to need some, they will need help. I think if favorites win out, it'll be tough, but got a chance to slide in there, number 23 or 24 in the playoffs. So River Bell Classic's always a big one. It's a classic for a reason, and it should be a good crowd on hand on Thursday. And we'll recap it for you next week here on the podcast. And Tyler, I want to try to make you a regular on here, and
anytime.
And we may have to break them up in terms of, just get the time down, condensed in to, just because we want to talk more women's athletics. I think we need to do that because they deserve it. And appreciate you coming on a Tuesday night. But great to talk about a tremendous Lady Lions come from behind win at Memphis.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. No, it's an honor to be on. I've been. When Damon told me, he was like, "Hey, Mark needs your cell phone number. He wants you to be on the podcast." I was like, "Absolutely, absolutely." So I'm excited to be on, and hope I'm on more.
We will have you on as much as you want to be, and appreciate you coming on at short notice to talk tonight. And,
absolutely.
For Tyler Thomas, voice of all things Lady Lions, men's basketball, and just kind of the jack of all trades around the UC. And I'm Mark Willoughby. We'll be back next week, hopefully to talk about playoffs. We'll see how that goes. Lions have a big one, as we said, in the River Bell. They have to sweat it out on Sunday, hopefully, to see if they make the tournament. And again, basketball, women's basketball, volleyball conference tournament. We'll recap that as well. And everything's starting to get into full swing as far as that goes. And then before you know it, it'll be springtime. So for Tyler Thomas, I'm Mark Willoughby. We'll see you next week right here on the Southeastern Sports Network podcast.